You wake up in the morning, and there's this weight on your chest. Not physical, something deeper. Something that whispers you're not doing enough, not being enough. You scroll through your phone, seeing everyone else's highlight reels, their promotions, their adventures, their seemingly endless energy. And you wonder what's wrong with you. Why does everything feel so hard? Why does motivation feel like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands? They call it laziness. Your family calls it laziness. Maybe you've started calling it laziness too. But here's what I want you to understand. What I need you to really hear. You're not lazy. You're not lazy. You're lost. There's a difference between being lazy and being directionless. And our culture has forgotten how to tell them apart. Lazy suggests a character flaw, some moral failing written into your DNA. But what if I told you that what you're experiencing isn't a flaw at all? What if it's actually your internal compass spinning wildly because you've lost true north? Think about the last time you felt truly energized. Not coffee energized, not deadline panic energized, but that deep soul-level energy that comes from doing something that matters to you. Can you remember it? Maybe it was years ago. Maybe it was when you were a child. Before the world told you who you should be, what you should want, how you should measure success. That energy, it's still in you. It didn't disappear. It's just buried under layers of other people's expectations, society's definitions of productivity, and the exhausting weight of living a life that doesn't quite fit. When you're lost, everything becomes harder. Simple tasks feel monumental. Getting out of bed becomes an act of resistance against an invisible force. You sit at your desk staring at your computer screen, and the work that used to flow now feels like pushing water uphill. This isn't laziness. This is what happens when your soul and your daily life are speaking different languages. You see, your brain is designed to conserve energy for things that matter. When nothing feels like it truly matters, when you're going through the motions of a life that doesn't align with who you actually are, your brain starts to shut down non-essential functions. Motivation becomes non-essential. Enthusiasm becomes non-essential. This is protection, not laziness. Your psyche is trying to tell you something. It's saying, this path we're on, it's not ours. We need to find our way back to something real. How many of your goals are actually yours? Really, truly yours? Think about the career path you're on, the relationship you're in, the city you live in, the way you spend your weekends. How much of this did you choose because it called to something deep inside you? And how much did you choose because it seemed like what you should want? We live in a world that hands us prepackaged definitions of success. Get the degree, climb the ladder, buy the house, post the photos, check the boxes. But what happens when you're checking boxes for a life that isn't yours? You become exhausted, bone deep exhausted. Not because you're lazy, but because you're trying to power a machine that was never designed for your particular fuel. I know this might be hard to hear. I know you might be thinking, but I can't just throw everything away and start over. And you're right, you don't have to throw everything away, but you do need to start asking different questions. Instead of asking, why am I so lazy? Try asking, what am I hungry for? Instead of asking, why can't I get motivated? Try asking, what would make me come alive? Instead of asking, what's wrong with me? Try asking, what's trying to emerge through me? These questions will feel scary at first, because they might reveal that the life you've been building isn't the life you actually want. They might show you that the person you've been trying to be isn't who you actually are. But here's what's beautiful about this fear. It means you're getting closer to something real. Our culture has sold us a lie about energy and motivation. It tells us that productive people wake up every day ready to conquer the world, that they never struggle with momentum, that they've somehow transcended the very human experience of ups and downs. This is fantasy. Real human beings have seasons. We have times of expansion and times of contraction, times of doing and times of being, times of clarity and times of confusion. When you're in a season of confusion, when you're feeling lost and directionless, your body and mind naturally slow down. This isn't dysfunction, this is wisdom. You're being asked to pause, to listen, to feel into what wants to emerge next. But we've been taught that pausing is laziness. We've been taught that not knowing is failure. We've been taught that uncertainty is something to fix quickly, rather than something to sit with patiently. What if instead of fighting against this season of your life, you learn to work with it? Getting unlost isn't about finding your one true purpose in a lightning bolt moment. It's not about having a complete life makeover or discovering your passion and then never struggling again. Getting unlost is about learning to listen to the subtle signals your authentic self is constantly sending you. It's about noticing what makes you lean forward with interest, even if it seems small or impractical. It's about paying attention to what you do when no one is watching, when there's no pressure to perform or produce. It's about remembering what you used to love before you learn to dismiss your own preferences as irrelevant. Getting unlost is about treating your inner world with the same curiosity and respect you give to a good friend who is trying to tell you something important. Here's what I want you to try. Not tomorrow, not when you feel more motivated, but right now in this moment of listening, ask yourself, if no one could see you, if there were no consequences, if you couldn't fail or disappoint anyone, what would you be curious about? What would you want to try? What would you want to learn? Don't think about whether it's practical. Don't think about whether it would make money or impress people. Just notice what creates a little spark of interest in your chest. That spark, however small, however impractical it might seem, that's your compass needle starting to move toward true north. There's tired from doing meaningful work that stretches you, and there's tired from doing work that slowly drains your life force. There's tired from growing, and there's tired from shrinking. Most people who call themselves lazy are actually just depleted from living in misalignment. They're exhausted from pretending, from performing, from trying to care about things that don't actually matter to them. When you're aligned with something that matters to you, even if it's difficult, even if it challenges you, you get tired, but you also get refilled. The tiredness comes with a sense of satisfaction, of progress, of becoming. When you're misaligned, when you're forcing yourself through a life that doesn't fit, you get depleted. The tiredness comes with emptiness, with the sense that you're running on a treadmill that's taking you nowhere you actually want to go. Your energy isn't broken. It's just been misdirected for so long that you've forgotten what it feels like when it flows naturally. Think of a river that's been dammed up. The water doesn't disappear. It just builds pressure behind the dam, looking for another way to flow. Your energy, your enthusiasm, your natural motivation, it's all still there. It's just been blocked by expectations that aren't yours, goals that don't fit, and a life structure that was designed for someone else. When you start to remove those dams, when you start to align your daily life with your actual values and interests, that energy doesn't just return, it floods back with all the force of water that's been held back too long. You don't need anyone's permission to change direction. You don't need to have it all figured out before you take the first step. You don't need to justify your desire for something different, something more aligned, something that actually fits who you are. But maybe you've been waiting for permission anyway. Maybe you've been waiting for someone to tell you it's okay to want what you want, to care about what you care about, to be who you actually are instead of who you think you should be. So let me say it clearly. You have permission. You have permission to be interested in what interests you, even if other people don't understand it. You have permission to care about things that seem small or impractical. You have permission to change your mind about what you thought you wanted. You have permission to disappoint people who love the version of you that was never really you. You have permission to stop calling yourself lazy and start calling yourself human. Finding your direction isn't a sprint. It's a slow walk home to yourself. It's the gradual work of remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's the patient practice of listening to your own voice again after years of drowning it out with other people's opinions and expectations. This work doesn't look productive in the way our culture understands productivity. It looks like sitting quietly with yourself. It looks like paying attention to small preferences. It looks like trying things without knowing if they'll lead anywhere. It looks like saying no to things that drain you and yes to things that intrigue you, even when those yeses don't make sense on paper. This is not lazy work. This is sacred work. This is the work of becoming who you actually are. When you start moving in a direction that's actually yours, something shifts. The same tasks that used to feel impossible suddenly become manageable. Not because they're easier, but because they're connected to something you actually care about. You find yourself having energy for things you thought you'd never have energy for. You find yourself curious about learning again. You find yourself willing to be uncomfortable in service of growth, instead of just being uncomfortable in service of staying stuck. This doesn't mean everything becomes easy. It means everything becomes worth it. When you're moving towards something that matters to you, obstacles become puzzles to solve. Rather than evidence of your inadequacy, setbacks become information rather than confirmation that you should give up. Slow progress becomes perfectly acceptable because you're finally going somewhere you actually want to be. One of the reasons we get lost is because we think our direction has to be extraordinary. We think we need to find our one true calling, or discover some unique talent that will make us special and successful and admired. But what if your direction is beautifully, perfectly ordinary? What if it's something simple that brings you quiet satisfaction? What if it's not designed to impress anyone else but just to make your days feel more like your own? There's tremendous courage in choosing ordinary alignment over extraordinary performance. There's wisdom in choosing a life that fits over a life that looks good from the outside. When you stop forcing yourself through a life that doesn't fit and start moving toward one that does, something beautiful happens. Not just for you, but for everyone around you. People feel it when someone is living authentically. There's an energy that comes from alignment that's contagious. Your willingness to be real gives other people permission to be real too. Your children, if you have them, learn that it's possible to build a life around what actually matters to you. Your friends see that it's okay to change direction, to admit when something isn't working, to prioritize fulfillment over appearance. Your decision to stop calling yourself lazy and start getting unlost creates permission for others to do the same. Getting unlost isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice of paying attention. It's checking in with yourself the way you check in with a good friend. It's asking, how am I feeling? What do I need? What's working? What isn't? It's the practice of making small adjustments instead of waiting for massive revelations. It's choosing the job that drains you a little less. It's saying no to the social event that feels like obligation. It's spending Saturday morning doing something that interests you instead of something you think you should do. These small adjustments accumulate. They compound. Day by day, choice by choice. You start building a life that actually fits. Underneath the label of laziness, underneath the frustration with your own lack of motivation, there's a hunger for meaning, a hunger for connection, not just with other people but with your own authentic self, a hunger for work that matters, relationships that nourish, days that feel like they belong to you. This hunger isn't a flaw. It's not something to fix or manage or overcome. This hunger is information. It's your soul telling you that you're built for more than just going through the motions. You're built for alignment. You're built for purpose. Not necessarily grand, world-changing purpose, but personal, life-giving purpose. You're built for the deep satisfaction that comes from living in harmony with who you actually are. The story you tell yourself about your struggles matters more than you might realize. When you tell yourself you're lazy, you're telling yourself there's something fundamentally wrong with you that needs to be fixed. When you tell yourself you're lost, you're telling yourself you're in a temporary state that can be navigated. Lost people find their way. Lazy people are stuck being lazy. Which story serves you better? Which story gives you room to grow, to change, to become? Which story honors the complexity of what you're actually experiencing? You've been carrying this weight of self-judgment for so long. This voice that tells you you're not enough, not doing enough, not being enough. This voice that compares your inside to everyone else's outside and finds you wanting. What would it feel like to set that weight down? What would it feel like to speak to yourself the way you'd speak to someone you love who was struggling? What would it feel like to offer yourself the same patience and understanding you'd give to a friend who was trying to find their way? You deserve that compassion. You deserve to be seen for who you actually are instead of judged for who you think you should be. You deserve to have your struggles understood rather than dismissed. This moment of recognition that you're not lazy, you're just lost. This can be the beginning of something entirely different. Not just a new job or a new relationship or a new city, but a new relationship with yourself. A relationship based on curiosity instead of judgment. Based on collaboration instead of force. Based on the understanding that you are not a problem to be solved, but a person to be understood. From this place of understanding, from this place of self-compassion, you can start the slow, patient work of finding your way. Not because you have to, not because you should, but because you want to. Because you're worth it. Because your life is worth living authentically. You don't need to have your whole life figured out by the end of this video. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow or move across the country or make any dramatic changes at all. All you need to do is take one small step toward honoring who you actually are. Maybe that's admitting to yourself what you're actually interested in. Even if it seems impractical, maybe that's saying no to something that drains your energy. Maybe that's saying yes to something that sparks your curiosity. Maybe it's just stopping the conversation in your head that calls you lazy and starting a new conversation that recognizes you're lost, and that lost is not permanent. Your journey back to yourself won't look like anyone else's journey. It won't follow the timeline you think it should. It won't be as straightforward as you'd like it to be. But it will be yours, and that makes it worth taking. You're not lazy. You never were. You're a person who got turned around, who lost sight of your own true north, who started trying to live someone else's life instead of your own. And now you're ready to find your way back. The compass is in your hands. True north is still true north. And you have everything you need to begin.